Hello one all, welcome back to the Marauders Guild and another episode of Mando Recap. That's right, it's Friday, meaning we're going to be looking over the latest episode of The Mandalorian. In the episode we're going to be taking a look at today was Chapter 15, The Believer. Now this episode is the penultimate chapter of this season, Season 2, and in it we saw the return of Bill Burr to the series as his character, Mayfield. It was great seeing him back, and he had a really terrific impact on this episode. But before we talk about that, let's get into the gist of it. Let's look at everything that happened. Now this episode picks off the heels of chapter 14, where we know that the crew, which is Boba, Fennec Shan, the Mandalorian himself, and Cara Dune, are all trying to figure out where they can locate Moff Gideon's cruiser. Where has he taken the child? The way they need to figure that out is accessing an Imperial terminal, and to do that they need to 1. Locate an Imperial base, 2. Locate somebody who can actually access this terminal. That person will turn out to be Mayfield, an ex-Imperial played by Bill Burr. They go to where he's imprisoned, which is a planet very similar to kind of like Brekka, you would see in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a scrap planet where they're scrapping old vehicles from the height of the Galactic Civil War. You saw TIE Fighters there, you saw AT-STs there, parts of an AT-AT, I believe you even saw parts of a U-Wing there as well. But they pull him out saying, we need your help with this mission. And they take him, and he takes him to the planet of Morak, and he escorts them to the planet of Morak. A Imperial mining facility is there, and this is where we get some very interesting things in terms of the psyche of the Mandalorian, Din Djarin. He is in a position where he has to remove his Mandalorian armor, because in order to get into this base, you have to be scanned. And a lot of people in this group were going to be tagged some way or another. It was ran by ex-ISB, so they had tags out on people. If Boba would have got scanned, they would have known he was a clone. If Cara Dune got scanned, they would have known she was a New Republic agent. Fennec Shan was wanted by ISB. So the only 2 people in this group that had any kind of clearance would have been Din Djarin, who would have been on anybody's records, and of course Mayfield, who is an ex-Imperial himself. So these 2 individuals go into the base. Mando has to don the armor of an Imperial stormtrooper, meaning he took his armor off and had his helmet off for a time being, though we didn't see his face just yet. Now, in undertaking this mission, they have to hijack an Imperial juggernaut that is carrying some very highly volatile substances that the Empire needs to do something that is apparently way bigger than Operation Cinder. You can think about what they may be. We have a bunch of options to choose from. If you know what Operation Cinder is, if you've read the comic books, if you play Star Wars Battlefront 2, you've seen Operation Cinder in action. You know how dangerous and deadly it was. You saw it on the Imperial War of Bardos. No one was safe from Operation Cinder. Even if you were a tried and true Imperial supporter, you were subject to Operation Cinder no matter what. So that was some big stuff. And I like that reference in there as well. I really like that they were able to reference that event. It was a pretty huge turning of the galaxy in that moment, and really just in the long view of the Empire, when you consider the reach that they had doing something like that, raising your planets, even though they have your loyal supporters, and doing that in just in the sense of, we want you to understand the power that we still have. That's crazy, and I feel like that had to be mentioned in some sort of live action outside of the comics and outside of the video game. So I'm very proud that they were able to get that nod in. But moving on from that, let's talk about one of the more surreal moments. Not just that, but this was the first episode, really, and just in general, the first time in any kind of live action animated, now this is very subjective considering where you will stand on it, but in any kind of media for Star Wars, that the Empire looked heroic. You know, there was a section where they're being chased by pirates and they're saved by TIE fighters, and on the bridge there's stormtroopers running in, and the music is, you know, this heroic blasting music, and the stormtroopers are cheering and saluting as they drive the juggernaut in. And I'm sitting here like, this is the first time where I can honestly say the Empire looked like the good guys. They looked heroic, and that was kind of cool to me. That was like a weird juxtaposition from what we've seen in throughout of all Star Wars media, where we have the Empire show up. There's always a light shining on them, that they were always, you know, what's the word, suppressive and just overbearing to whoever they were watching over. This was the first time that we saw them come to the aid and rescue of somebody apparently in our heroes as well as Mando and Mayfield. So that was just a really cool moment I want to talk about in that regard. So moving on towards the end of this episode, they do get out the location of Moff Gideon's light cruiser. We get some few fan service moments there, and if you know what I'm talking about, it's when Boba Fett dropped that proton bomb. That was all fan service, but I loved it. That sound effect is amazing. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it in Battlefront 2. You've seen it in Episode 2 as well with Jango and the Obi-Wan chase in the space around Geonosis. That is an all-time favorite Star Wars sound effect. So it was really nice being able to hear it again. Now, towards the end of this episode, we have the challenge laid. Mando directly sends a message to Moff Gideon, warning him, saying basically, the child is everything to me, and he is going to be back with me. And Moff Gideon, he realizes how big this threat is. If you've seen him over the show, he kind of scoffs at things. If he doesn't take them seriously, he has that signature smirk come up, you know, that just demonic looking smirk. When he was seeing this message, there was no smirk. There was no, he can't be serious. This was Moff Gideon realizing the threat that Mandalorians pose to him, the threat that Mando poses to him. It is on that note that this season is getting ready to come to a close. The next chapter, chapter 16, is the final episode of the season. Like I said earlier, this is the penultimate episode that we saw, chapter 15. So in light of that, this Sunday's upload would not be the usual altered history. Don't worry, it'll still be coming the following Sunday. But this episode Sunday, the upload Sunday, will be predictions for the season 2 finale. We're going to be going in depth as possible to discuss what could happen in the season finale of chapter 2. We're going to be looking at everything from every standpoint, characters we can expect to see, what do I expect to happen, the Jedi, stuff like that, all of the possible outcomes of this episode. We're going to be taking a look at them and breaking it down as much as we can to reach a conclusion and see how much of that comes to fruition in chapter 16. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. If you want to tell me down in the comment section below what you thought about this episode, feel free to do so. I'd love to know about your opinions about chapter 15, The Believer. Also, tell me in the comment section below, what do you expect to happen in chapter 16? There's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about in the coming week until it, so definitely fill me in on your thought process. Be on the lookout Sunday for my prediction video and so on and so forth. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already, and ring that bell to get notified about all uploads here on the channel. And until the next time, may the force of others be with you.